Another chord idea that I hear Pee Wee Crayton use in a number of songs, I've never heard this or noticed this before, is he does these solo introductions using the second position, ninth chord. And it's really cool, very powerful idea. So if he's playing in G, here's my first position, ninth chord. My second position, ninth chord, with my second finger on the 10th fret of the 5th string is really where the kind of the root of this idea is. Let me play this. This is from a tune called Pappy's Blues, and he uses this in When It Rains It Pours and a couple other songs. Really neat. I just use that same position, and the first part of it, I'm going to walk up from the E9, and you could do it like that, or you could do it like this. You can vary the rhythm that you played. I've heard him do this a couple different ways. So let's keep the simple version and just go like this. Repeat it twice, and the third time, 2, 3, 4, 1. And on the 1, that's when you start your slide, and the slide isn't like this. He's going to do these. So he's going to strum the chord and slide it down one, strum and slide it down one, all the way to the C ninth. So from the G, so let's do it on the timing. So when you get to the 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Then he heads into the, I hit my switch on my guitar, he heads into the 4. So the chords, just really, you got C ninth, which is your 4, and your G ninth, you're just going to keep that pattern until you get to the C ninth, and then do that little slide from below to walk into it, from a B ninth to a C ninth to start the 4. Again, listen to the song Pappy's Blues or When It Rains It Pours, and you'll hear him use that type of thing. So he's just keeping the same shape. There's no switching the fingers around, just moving down the fretboard. It's really cool, especially that first part. Into the 4. It's a neat way to kick off a solo, other than the typical single string runs and things that you hear most guys do. So there's another chord idea from the playing of. Now for the next couple chord ideas, I'm going to take you through some progressions, and I am no jazz guitar player. I am trying to learn some new chords, and I've studied the Mickey Baker book, at least to the limits of my musical knowledge. But I've come to the conclusion that Pee Wee Crayton, in his chord playing, there's a few songs where he uses some really cool, more jazzy chords and chord progressions. And if you want to expand your knowledge of chords and progressions, Pee Wee's got a few songs that are great for getting into this kind of thing. I'm going to use 2 tunes. One is called I'm Still in Love with You, of which there are several versions, and I'm going to kind of mix together the different versions I've heard. And then there's also a tune called You Better Change Your Way of Lovin', which is especially cool. And we're going to take a look at both those songs in some detail and get the chords down. And some of these things I'm just going to sort of do an overview and leave it up to you to listen to and try to figure out yourself. I'll give you, pretty much everything you need, but I just haven't had the time to really dissect these songs as much. And the idea here is just to show you some Pee Wee Crayton stuff as much as I can. The tune, I'm Still in Love with You, the version I'm going to do is in B flat, and he plays the melody. Let me just go through the chord progression one time. It's a slow tune, and he's going to use some different chords. And he starts out with this B6, B major 6th chord. And let me just do it for you one time. so on. Really cool progression, and it's a slow tune. Listen to it if you want to hear exactly what he's doing. But he starts out with a B major 6. So I've got my first finger. This is a chord you don't hear too often in electric blues from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. It's more of a jazzy type thing. A lot of guys will play their 6th chord like that and use it more kind of a swingish type thing. But here's definitely a jazz influenced slow tune. So my first finger, if I'm doing a B flat 6, my second finger is on the B flat, the root, at the 8th fret of the 6th string. My first finger is on the 5th fret of the 4th string. And then my ring finger is on the 6th fret of the 2nd string. And my pinky is on the 7th fret of the 3rd string. And I just pick, I don't get the 1st string. That. And then when I go to the 4, I could do a 9th and flatten out my ring finger, but it's much easier to do this. Just move your ring finger over to the 6th fret of the 3rd string and then drop your pinky in on the 6th fret of the 2nd string, and you got this. You go back. So that part of it is just 6th chord, like an E flat 9th. I'm not sure if that's what he's doing. I never saw Crayton play this, but that's what I'm hearing. And then he does this really cool kind of transition chord thing. Passing chord, I think, is the term they use. He does this B6, B flat 6. So he's going from a B flat 6 to an A 7th to a G7. And the easiest way to do that is to use this kind of 7th chord, major 7th, or I'm sorry, not a major 7th, but a 7th chord. So this could be an A7th, but he's playing it like this, I think. And that is more of a jazz way of playing it, at least from what I know. I've got my first finger on the 5th fret of the 6th string, which is my A, second finger on the 5th fret of the 4th string, ring finger on the 5th fret of the 2nd string, and my pinky on the 6th fret of the 3rd string. And if you practice this, when you go from that B6, all you have to do is slide your pinky up and then move your, so I'll try to do this slowly. Switch your 2nd and your 1st fingers. And then you can go right to your, so what you got is this. That little progression. And he does that. And so he's really playing 3 chords. Now he's going to do that little slide to a C7th, which to me it sounds like he's playing with the bar, or at least he's playing it like this. Sounds very full to me, so I play it like this. And it's just a regular 1st position bar chord shape with the pinky on the 2nd string at the 11th fret. And then an F9 to an F augmented. That's what I'm hearing. I'm not sure if that's what he's doing, but that sounds really cool. Even if that's not what he's doing, I like that. So the whole progression starts out on the B flat 6. He does these slow rhythm. 1, 2, 1, 2, here, I'm not sure exactly what he's doing. It's hard to hear, but in my mind, you could do this really easily and go back to the B6 and play 9th chords, going from the G9 the F ninth, and then slide it back. When he does this, it sounds to me like he's just doing that 3-string thing that we talked about earlier. You can hear the sound. It doesn't sound like this. It doesn't sound like a full 9th chord. It sounds like this. So the whole thing, so we go from the, let's take it from here. Back into the next verse, which uses the same chord progression. Now you could do this, or I've been studying the Mickey Baker jazz chord book and learning some different little chord progressions and movements, and I don't even understand half of it, but I just kind of copy what he tells you to practice in the book, and I found some different ways to mix it in, and I'll show you. Pee Wee Crayton uses quite a few of these ideas. And here's one way you could do this. Instead of playing, you could do a little more fancy, something like this. So what I'm doing, instead of just going from the G ninth to the F ninth, what I'm doing is, this is a, I think this is a B flat major 7. Then I'm going to this, which is a C sharp, flat 5, flat 9, I think. Let me just show you the finger position. First finger is on the 8th fret of the 4th string. First finger is on the 9th fret of the 6th string. And then I've got my ring finger on the 9th fret of the 3rd string, and my pinky on the 10th fret of the 2nd string. So I go from this to this, to what is a C minor 7th, and then I just do the 9th. That stays the same, I think. So this is a B flat major 7th, or a form of it. I've got my first finger on the B flat, which is the 7th, 8th fret of the 4th string. I've got my second finger on the 10th fret of the 6th string. And then I've got my ring finger kind of flattened out, but I'm really only getting the 10th fret of the 3rd string. You hear that chord. And then from that chord, I'm sliding my second finger up or down, and then dropping in my ring finger and my pinky, and then to this, whoops, C major 7th, which I've got my ring finger getting the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings at the 8th fret, and I'm using my thumb. You could also do it like that. I used my thumb on this, it's just easier for me, at the 8th fret of the 6th string. So that whole thing, let's take it again from the C7th. It goes back into the 1. Now again, I'm no expert on this, I could be wrong. And the one thing I know about Pee Wee Crayton is he uses a lot of Charlie Christian ideas and seems to use a lot of jazz chord ideas. That's one of the reasons I'm going through these 2 songs in some detail. And so it's very likely he could be doing something fancier like that. And that sounds a lot more jazzier, and that fits into what he's doing in that song. So that is the tune, I'm Still in Love with You. Now there's a chorus part where he does what's called a chord changes. And when he gets to the chorus, I think this part I haven't figured out, but it sounds like he's chorus, what he does, I think, is he's just going to go from the 1 to the 4 to the 1. So B6, B flat 6, to the E flat 9th, B flat, or B flat 6, and then he's going to go, and if you listen carefully, it sounds like he's using this F shape. It's very trebly. Could be doing this, but I don't hear any bass strings. So he's walking to the D like that. And it sounds like he gets into a D7th. Same thing we used for the C7th with my first finger at the 10th fret. Rhythm changes. G9. C7. F9. F augmented. B flat 6. And then so on. So there's a tune, I'm Still in Love with You, which has some very jazz-like chord changes and some different chords. You got that 6th chord, you've got this kind of 9th chord, a little different shape. You've got this jazzier 7th chord, which I'm thinking he has to use to make that switch as fast as he does. He could do this, just use the regular first position bar chord. And then you've got this turnaround. Stuff like that where he does some cool chord changes and cool chord ideas. So that is another example of Pee Wee Crayton's chord playing, and this is from I'm Still in Love with You. Now, in a couple other versions of the song, it's in different keys. Like there's one that sounds like it's in B or B flat, and might be just my tuning in my stereo when I listen to it. But okay, let's move on. Now, another Pee Wee Crayton song that's got some great chord stuff in it is called You Better Change Your Way of Lovin'. This is a great song. I love the chord changes in this, and again, I listened to it, and with my limited knowledge of chords and a little help from the Mickey Baker book and some other jazz stuff that I've learned, I think I figured most of this out. But again, this is more to show you some ideas, and the way I play it may not be exactly like Pee Wee Crayton plays it, but it's the same general ideas, and you can apply this in lots of different ways. So the tune, there's a guitar introduction, which I'll save for a later time. And let's just get to the chords. It's in G. It sounds like he starts out something like this. That's the first part, the basic chord melody. So he starts with a G. Sounds to me like a G7th without the pinky. He doesn't have the pinky on the second string. It's just playing the G major. And I think it's a 7th without the pinky, just like this. So just make your first position bar chord, take the pinky out, and that's a G7. He's going to slide to a B7, which would be our 3. So in the G scale, the third note is a B, so that's our 3 chord. And he's going to do this little chord thing to get into E9. And so it sounds to me like he's hits the B, something like that, or you might go to a B7, and then from this would be F sharp ninth, F ninth, and E ninth is where he ends up, and he plays that. And as he's playing these second position ninth chords throughout the song, he does these nice little riffs, and I don't know if he keeps the chord shape and just uses his pinky to do that, or maybe he just uses all his fingers. I don't know. And this is the part where I don't have tabbed out exactly. He slides into the ninth. He does these little chord ideas, little riffs off that second position ninth chord. And then he goes to a C. It sounds to me again like he's playing the C7. And then here, this is a diminished chord, second position diminished chord. So that would be a G diminished. And I've got my first finger, this is a new chord shape. First finger on the 9th fret of the 3rd string. Got my second finger on the G, which is the 10th fret of the 5th string. And I'm putting my ring finger on the 11th fret of the 4th string and my pinky on the 11th fret of the 2nd string. Here's what you get. And if you listen real carefully, you hear him do the C. And he's sliding that diminished chord. 1, 2, 3 frets. To where his second finger is on a B flat. So he's going G, B flat, like that. So the whole thing. And back to the 1, G. Whoops, is that right? G. Into an E ninth. Now, an E7 sounds good there. He does this. And then to the A. But if you listen real carefully, it sounds like he's playing an E9, so he does this. And then to A7. And he's going to bounce in or move into the C9 or D9 by going from the E. Again, playing around with that second position ninth chord. E, E flat ninth, D ninth. So the whole thing. And then back to the verse again. So let's play it through one time slowly. G ninth or G7th. To the B7th, E ninth, C7th, diminished, G, E ninth, A, D ninth. And when he does this, could throw in something else. It's really hard to hear, and I'm not good enough of a chord player, to play this exactly. But that's the chord progression. Very different, very jazzy compared to your standard 3 chords, electric blues song. So there's some great ideas there. Now there's a chorus part that's really cool too, and we're going to talk about that. When he gets to the chorus, he starts on the G, but on the guitar, he's actually playing it. He's doing these riffs on the G ninth, second position G ninth chord. Something like that. Messing around there. But let me just play the chords for you so you know what he's doing in the tune. So it's G, 7. his walk. Whoops. So again, there's some neat chord movement from the C 7th to the A 7th. So the whole thing starts on the G. A7. D. He does this little lick there, which I have no idea what he's doing. It sounds like some kind of a diminished chord. So we're in G. And he winds up back here. If you listen to the original tune, you'll hear that. If you have any ideas on what he's doing, let me know. But the chorus part you can wrap up with a D augmented. You can skip this. I'll show you what I think he's doing in case you want to listen to it. He's starting on the 6th fret of the 1st string. And this chord, to do it, I think you'd have to use their 2nd finger and get both the 2nd and 3rd string at the 7th fret. Or you could just pick it, which almost sounds like what he's doing. I don't know if he's doing it out of a chord shape, or he could do this. Make it like this shape, which is 1st finger on the 6th fret of the 1st string, 2nd finger on the 7th fret of the 3rd string, 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the 2nd string, and you get like it's an A minor shape. And then you can just pick it like that, 1st, 2nd, 3rd string, then use this pinky on the 8th fret of the 4th string, and then move it, whoops, to the 9th fret of the 5th string as he does it. So it's something like this. And again, I haven't practiced this, but I'm just trying to show you what I think's going on here. Do something like that. But that's how he ends up the bridge part. And then he goes back to the 1. You gotta listen to the tune. It's called You Better Change Your Way of Loving. There's a great guitar solo in there, which I'm going to feature later with one of my solos. But the whole idea here is that there's some chord movement ideas that you can pick up on, especially using the 2nd position 9th chords and using some of these little riffs or leading into a chord like that, or using diminished chords. One of the things about diminished chords, wherever you use them, you slide 3 steps up or down and you're still in the same, basically the same chord. So watch this. So you got these diminished slides. I use them a lot with the 1st position diminished chord. And all I'm doing is moving at 3 frets. So there's a G diminished. Whoops. There's the 2nd position G diminished. And that's what Crayton uses in this song. And he's just moving it 1, 2, 3. Go the other way. And those chords you can slide around. If you listen to acoustic blues, Lonnie Johnson uses those chords a lot. With electric blues, Tiny Grimes does a lot of this stuff. He'll do licks like. That's not the greatest version, but that's the idea. Oh well. Got a few more Crayton chord ideas. We'll do those, and then we'll be ready to move on to the licks.